Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps you go all in on your business, and we introduce you to professionals that can help you to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Dave with Focus Opex. How you doing today, Dave?
I'm doing great. How are you, Roderick?
I'm doing very well, thanks. We definitely appreciate you coming on the show today, Dave, and we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources, so we're going to go ahead and jump into things. Tell us a little bit about your journey, Dave.
So I got to where I am in a pretty strange path. So I'm actually a degreed biologist. And
Okay.
a lot of people look at that and they're like, how did you get into doing the business stuff that you're doing? And the way that happened was, I started out in a laboratory. So I worked as a bench scientist for a long time. I've worked for the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, right? So a nonprofit. I worked in university. I worked for big pharma, and I worked in biotech. And really, how I got into the manufacturing aspect of it was in the biotech. So it was a small startup company, and the last position I held in that company was the quality manager. So as the quality manager, you spend a lot of time dealing with issues in the factory and dealing with supply chain, your suppliers. And that's really was my first real taste of what it's like in manufacturing. And after that, I ended up having to leave that company because they were purchased by a much larger company, and they kind of wound down operations. So I had to look for something else to do. I live in central Illinois, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Champaign. So there's a university and a lot of corn. There's not really much in the way of manufacturing, biotech, medical devices, that type of stuff. So I had to make a choice. Do I want to move or do I want to do something different? And the choice was made to do something different. So I got into quality system auditing
Mm-hmm.
because that was related to what I was doing as a quality professional, and I became a consultant. And so I was doing those things kind of simultaneously. And in doing that, I learned a lot more about manufacturing. So in 10 years, I visited about 150 factory floors. So when you visit a lot of places like that, you learn a lot. So you notice companies that are doing things right, and you notice
Mm-hmm.
the companies that are doing things wrong. And so that's really how I got into this space, being a consultant and now even an investor in manufacturing companies.
Okay, that's great. Now, we understand that at some point there had to be an event that happened to say, okay, I'm gonna stop doing both and I'm gonna go all in on my business. Did you have a specific event that happened that say, okay, now I'm gonna go all in on my business?
Well, it was a couple things. When I was doing the quality system auditing, that was a lot of travel. So I was on the road a lot, and that wore on me a bit. Um, and anyone that's a parent knows that if you have that type of lifestyle, you miss a lot of things in the child's life, which I did. So that was something that I wanted to cut back on. And then a couple other things happened. Some folks that I met, some organizations that I joined, really opened my eyes to other opportunities. By looking into doing acquisitions and looking at what I was doing before, I basically just I did a hard break to the left and said, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go all in, as you said, on the consulting and investing. Funny story here. You said that term now twice, all in. I happened to meet earlier this year Mike McAllowitz, the author,
Okay.
and his
Okay.
latest book is called All In. And so that was just perfect timing. I read that book and I was like, I need to go all in. And so
Yes, yes.
that's what I've done this year.
Excellent, excellent. Now, share with us what are the services that you're providing. Now, I want to get to the section where you tell us about your business, what it is that you do, and what we can keep an ear out on how we can help you with referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, manufacturing is really my focus area. I really like to work with small manufacturers, and what I offer them is what the easy way to say it is I solve problems on the factory floor. So just about every company that I've been to has issues, even if they don't know they have issues. One of the main ones is their lead times, right? So either their lead times are too long, or they're growing, or maybe the customer just says you can't get my product out to me on time. So that's a really main issue that I look at. Other issues on the factory floor are capacity issues. So oftentimes, a manufacturer will think, I just need more. I need more people, more equipment, more space, and a lot of times there's hidden capacity there. So finding that hidden capacity is another thing that I do. Quality issues, being a quality professional in the past, I can assist with that, and these things are interrelated as well.
Yes.
The quality issues, and then supply chain issues. Over the last few years, a lot of people complained about supply chain issues. There were real problems globally, but more often than not, companies have supply chain issues that have nothing to do with their suppliers. It's just
Yes.
the way that they're managing their inventory and the way they're purchasing and so on and so forth. They create these issues themselves. So those are probably the four main things.
I got you. Tell us a little bit about your engagements. I know at one time you were visiting 150 factories at a time, and now that's not necessarily your focus. How long is an engagement, and where are those engagements? Are they all over the country, all over the world? Give us an idea of expectation if we were to work with you.
Yeah, so engagements, I try to stick to the continental US, although, if I had the right opportunity, I'd get on a plane and go anywhere. Um, but I don't live very far from Chicago, and that area, there's a lot of industry. There's actually an industrial park up there that's the largest industrial park in the country. So there's a lot of opportunity nearby, but as I said, I don't mind traveling a little bit. Um, there was another piece to the question I didn't answer.
As far as an expectation of, okay, hey, I've talked to Dave. Now I'm coming out. We're doing our initial discovery fact finding, and now I've hired Dave. What's an expectation of how long it's going to take him to fix
Right.
whatever I have broken?
Sure, and that varies widely. So I've done engagements as short as just a couple of days. If it's very very focused, maybe it's just a training activity. They want to know more about X, right? So I will do that on occasion. And then some other engagements can basically be forever, right? So
Okay.
so I will work on a retainer basis, where I just get paid a monthly fee, and I'm like an advisor,
Okay.
that I will help them with any problem that comes up. So I didn't mention this before, but risk analysis is something that I'm pretty good at. So I did identify risks that they don't, or coming up with new ideas, new strategies. So that engagement can last a very long time. And then there's things in between. There can be things that are project based. So let's say we're going to do an improvement activity, and we want to find some hidden capacity. So the goal is maybe to increase our capacity by 20% without buying anything or hiring anyone, right? So maybe that could be a 3 month engagement, a 6 month engagement. It really depends widely on the scope and budget.
Yes. Yes. That lets me know that it's not a combo A, B, or C that you're providing. It is a custom solution based off of what's going on. So it's not, hey, it's going to be 3 months. It all depends. It may be 3 hours,
Right.
or it may be 3 years. It just depends on that particular problem. And that's good to see that you focus on that client. Now, you've done a great job of explaining how you're helping with capacity issues, lead times, even the risk analysis inside of manufacturing companies. Um, who would be a good referral partner for you? Like for us, we help businesses with their credit card processing. So CPAs, bookkeepers, web developers, they send us over opportunities. What industry sends you over opportunities so we can keep an eye out for that networker?
Yeah, one of the best referral partners for me are exit planners. So exit planners, work with companies that are getting ready to sell. And those are good for me in two ways because I can provide some of the things they need to help increase their value. And then I also invest in companies. So that's kind of a double whammy there.
Mm-hmm.
But also other consultants. So other consultants that get in the door doing one thing, but they find out that they need help in operations, so they can bring me in, and I do the same for others. I just got a lead recently, actually, from a fractional CFO. So that's fractional employees of all types are also good referral partners for me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what you shared with us, Dave, is that you've had experience with research as a scientist. You have had some some control positions, and now you're all into business. And I am confident over your career, you have acquired and nurtured specific skills that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with us one or two of those skills that you have acquired and nurtured?
Yeah, sure. One of those that comes to mind, and it started out being in science, and that's making data-driven decisions and critical thinking. So there are always different ways to look at the data. And so one thing I learned as a scientist is you don't try to prove what you're thinking, right? So you don't come up with a hypothesis and try to prove it. You actually do the opposite. You come up with a hypothesis and try to disprove it, right? And so that really helps you get away from that confirmation bias. And I think that's a very valuable skill. And there are a lot of folks that just don't do that, right? So
Mhm.
they look out, they have an opinion, and then they look for data to support that opinion. But you can always do that. You can always
Yes.
find that. It's much more valuable to try to poke holes in your hypothesis, right? Because that one hole deflates it, and that's much more valuable than collecting a lot of data that supports it. So
Mhm.
what science says is you can never really prove anything. You can only disprove it. So if you keep collecting data to prove it, what it just means is that your hypothesis is more valuable and more valid. But anytime something could come along and poke a hole on it. And in business, it's even harder if you don't do that because things change, right? So in nature, right, you keep collecting data, but you're always working against a constant background, right? Because it's nature. It's just the way it is. But in business, you might collect a lot of data and support your hypothesis, but your landscape is continually changing. So you always have to keep questioning what you're doing because what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Based off of your explanation, it clicks in my mind. It's not always good to have yes, 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 or yes men. That's what it seems like with your hypothesis, because if you're trying to prove it, it's like a yes man, yes man. But it is okay to have constructive conflict. That is, seems like trying to disprove it. It's okay to have some of that. So it's just not everyone going down the street together. You sometimes need somebody to say, "Hey, I don't think so," and it seems like that's okay if that's what it sounds like you're explaining to me.
It is, and another way to state that is to challenge assumptions, right? So
Okay.
so a lot of times, people just assume things, and that leads you to some bad results. So don't be afraid to challenge assumptions. And some folks have complained that this seems a little negative, right? So you should be more optimistic. I said I am optimistic that it'll work out, but you can't be blind to what's in front of you. You have to look at the data. The other thing is being a scientist, if you look at the data, you're not afraid to change your mind because new data means you should look at it in a new way. And that's
Yes.
another very healthy attitude in business, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing that again. The skills that you're talking about now can go excellent to that entrepreneur that's watching the show's bag, and they can enter that into what they're currently doing, and it can help them in a magnificent way. So thank you for sharing that. Now, the next section, it goes back to having a good work-life balance. We understand that we do all of these things, our business goals to fund, in a lot of cases, our personal goals. Let's just say that you have gotten all those manufacturers' lead time down and you have just got them as efficient as possible. What would Dave do with the time that he made for himself?
Yeah, so being a solopreneur, you do spend a lot of hours on business, and so two things that I don't do much anymore that I used to really enjoy are playing guitar and fishing.
Okay.
I haven't been fishing in a long time, so I think that's something I would do.
Now, as far as fishing, what type is it? Out on the boat in the ocean? Is it fly fishing? What type of fishing do you prefer?
So I like sport fishing, freshwater fishing, out in a boat. Largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill, those types of things.
Okay, okay. And then the last question I have dealing with that personal side of things: what song could you pick up that guitar if I asked you to and play right now? What song could you play?
Probably one I know pretty well is Tequila Sunrise by the Eagles.
Okay, okay, excellent. Now that guitar isn't close, is it? I'm about to ask you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Things. It is important for us to work hard so we can have the life portion of things. It's good that you shared that, although we know you're a magnificent networker, because that's how I met you, through networking. I've heard nothing but great things as far as how helpful you are. And knowing that you have those skills with the business and skills with life, how can the people contact you if they have questions about being consulted and or something that you shared today?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm not stingy with my time. On LinkedIn, I actually have a button that you can schedule a meeting with me directly there on LinkedIn. And then my phone number is also, and emails in my contact information on LinkedIn. So I make it real easy to contact me. I'm not so busy that I have to avoid people. So
Mm-hmm.
feel
Mm-hmm.
free to reach out to me. And as you said, I love connecting people. So even if you and I uh, aren't destined to do business together, there's a good chance that I can introduce you to someone that will help propel your career.
Yes, definitely a notable networker. So everyone watching today, reach out to Dave so you can learn something. Now, Dave, we appreciate you coming on today and sharing these things that can assist these entrepreneurs and continue to move forward. And we want to honor you by giving you the last word. Please take a look in that camera and tell us something good.
So, one thing, my big secret to consulting on the factory floor, it comes down to one thing. The mistake that most people make in a manufacturing environment is they schedule to keep the people and the machines busy instead of keeping the product moving. And
Okay.
so if you focus on keeping the product moving other than those other things, you're going to do much better.
Thank you so much for those insights today, Dave. You've been a wonderful guest, and we truly do appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
And all of the entrepreneurs that are watching the show, be kind and thanks.